It's time for Orchard Skills. On September 29th, 2020, Sipka, a core developer of the Orchard core team, demonstrated Blazing Orchard. Blazing Orchard is a modular application framework that turns your Blazor application into a content management system by leveraging the Orchard core CMS framework. Today on Orchard Skills, we'll be creating a Blazor WebAssembly OpenID Connect authorization code flow application using Blazing Orchard. Please stay with us and we'll get started. Welcome back. Open up your favorite browser and head over to https://github.com/blazingorchard. And here you will notice two repositories, blazingorchard.orchard core module. This repository contains the Orchard core CMS server application and blazing-orchard. This repository contains the Blazing Orchard framework. Let's click on Blazing Orchard, Orchard core module, and let's select Open with GitHub Desktop. Let's click on Clone. Let's head back and go to the Blazing Orchard. Open with GitHub Desktop. Open GitHub Desktop exe. And let's go ahead and click on Clone. Okay, great. Now let's bring up Visual Studio, but in this case we'll need the preview version of Visual Studio. So let's bring up Blazing Orchard Solution, right click on Samples, and let's add a new project. And let's search for Blazor. We want to select a Blazor app, call this Blazor OIDC, create, and then in here what you want is we'll select the Blazor WebAssembly application. Okay, make sure you select .NET 5.0, go into and change your individual user accounts authentication. Make sure it's at individual user accounts. Make sure that ASP.NET Core Hosted is not selected, and you can go ahead and select Progressive Web Application, hit Create. Okay, great. So the first thing we want to do is go into www.root and go into our app settings. And here we want to change our app settings. So one of the app settings that we need to do is create an Orchard app setting to specify the server URL. And the other one, we want to select our OpenID Connect setting. So we'll call that OIDC. So here you can see the Orchard. We'll set that, the Orchard server URL, to HTTPS localhost 44.300. And then we'll set our OIDC settings authority, which will be localhost 44.300. Our client ID will be CodeFlow client ID. Use Pixie will be true. Default scopes will be API. Metadata address will be the localhost well-known OpenID configuration. Redirect URI will be the localhost /authentication/login callback. Post logout redirect URI will be localhost /authentication/logout -callback, and then for the response type, which is for code flow authorization, will be code. Now what we want to do is copy the components directory from the samples blazingorchard.web.application over to our new Blazor OIDC Blazor WebAssembly application. Copy the components directory here, do a copy, and then a paste here, and that will copy all the components over. Next, we want to go to our pages folder here, and we don't need counter.razor or fetch data.razor or index.razor. Select all of these, right click, and hit delete, and say OK. Let's right click on page and add razor component. Let's call it content page.razor and hit add. And in the content page.razor, we want to set the page to a slash, and then page/pages/*slug, and then content item handle equals handle, and our code with parameter string slug, which is a property get and set, and then our handle, which will be slug question mark home. Now let's go to the shared folder, and let's go ahead and delete the survey prompt.razor because that's already in the components. Okay. Now let's head over to the Blazor OIDC, add these unsafe block. Let's add the system.net.http.json package, and also the Microsoft extension.caching.memory. And let's add the group item, which will be the blazing orchard.project and the blazing orchard.menu.project. So we'll include those. Now let's head down to the program. So here we want to add the blazing orchard.extensions and Microsoft extensions.caching memory, and then blazing orchard. Set up our HTTP client, and here we'll specify localhost 44300 for the authorized URLs, and then we want to add scope OpenID connect, profile, API, do a builder.services to add scope, and then we want to specify HTTP client factory, create client, which is the client here. And then also we want to do an add OIDC authentication. Go ahead and bind the OIDC parameters and add a singleton to iMemory, memory cache, add singleton HTTP encoder, add singleton iConfiguration, builder configuration, add blazing orchard, add modules get assemblies, and then do a build, run async. And then we want to define a class default HTML encoder where we specify override unsafe init, unsafe bool, override bool, and override int. Now let's go ahead and bring up the Blazing Orchard server, Orchard Core CMS web application. Run the application, hit the green little play triangle button, select our site name, which will be Orchard Core. And for the recipe, let's make sure that we select Blazing Orchard, and then we can enter in our credentials and our password, confirm our password, and then hit the Finish Setup button. Okay, and so here you have a home page, we have a blog page, we have a counter page, an about page, contact page, and a search page. And we can do explore and do a search, and then you can see it finds our blog post. Go ahead and log in, go to sales, and hit login. And if we go select sales and go to the dashboard, and go into security, OpenID Connect, into management, applications, and let's go ahead and select the authorization code flow. We'll edit that, and you can see that our client ID is set to code flow client ID, display name authorization code flow, type is a public client, and then our flows is our allow authorization code flow, and then we have our redirect URIs, which is localhost authentication / login callback, and our post logout redirect URI is set to localhost authentication / logout callback, and our consent type is explicit consent. Okay, great. Go back to the main application. Now let's bring up Visual Studio, the preview version that has the Blazor OIDC loaded, and hit the green triangle play button. And remember, we have the Orchard Core CMS web server running in the background. Okay, you see that our application is running here. So let me bring this up a little bigger here. And you can see that we have our home page, our blog page, our counter page, and we can click the button and our counter works. We have our about page here, and we also have our contact page here, and our search page, which is not implemented yet. Some of these features are not implemented, and hopefully we'll get those implemented soon. So you'll notice here we have a login. So let's go ahead and click on the login, and we're redirected back to the server. Let's go ahead and enter our credentials and hit the login button. And you'll notice here that we get a message authorization. Do you want to grant authorization code flow access to your data? Scopes requested, OpenID, profile, and API. And let's go ahead and select yes. And then we're redirected back to our Blazor WebAssembly application. And you'll notice here that we're authenticated. And so if we wanted to, we could go ahead and get our access token, or set a page up where that it only needs authorization. So we can put a guard there on the page, and you cannot access a page unless you're authenticated. And so now let's go ahead and log out. So we'll hit the logout button, and then we're redirected back to the server, and it says, are you sure you want to log out? And let's go yes. And there you go. Now we're not authenticated anymore. So there we have it. We have OpenID C Connect code flow authorization integrated into a Blazing Orchard application. Now to recap, we cloned the Blazing Orchard repositories. We created an OIDC Blazor WebAssembly application using the pre-release version of Visual Studio. We integrated the Blazing Orchard framework by copying the components folder, modifying the pages, and program.cs. We ran both the Orchard Core CMS server web application and the Blazor OIDC WebAssembly application. We displayed the contents of our CMS pages in the Blazor WebAssembly application. We showed how we could get authenticated by logging using the authorization code flow. We showed the authorization/authentication login status. And finally, we showed logging out, thus revoking our authentication/authorization. Now, if you missed or didn't understand something, that's okay. There's a detailed blog post that describes all the steps. There is also a GitHub repository with the complete source code. All this information is in the video description. If you like this video, please click on the thumbs up icon. Also, please subscribe and click on the bell icon to get a notification when I release the next video. Thank you for watching.